Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Khalees Smith. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I'm the Outreach Service Coordinator. My job at SOS is to get the word out about our services because they're free and confidential, and we want to reach as many survivors as possible so we can start them on their healing path. So today I'm going to tell you a little bit about SOS services, talk about a few definitions so we're clear as we go through this information on kind of what sexual assault is and rape and sexual coercion. And then a little bit about the risk factors and warning signs of sexual coercion. Some things are easy to recognize and some things are not easy to recognize. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then we'll talk about how sexual coercion actually can lead to rape. And that also involves consent and what that looks like. And then at the end, we'll talk about, okay, so I've been coerced into having sex against my consent. What do I do now? What are my options? And we'll talk a little bit about that. Some individuals don't want to do anything. They just need to talk to somebody. And then some individuals want to take action for the sexual assault that has been committed against them. So we'll talk about all that. So just a little bit about SOS services. The top two are the main things we do. We have a 24-hour crisis line, and we provide 24-hour medical reach at Regions, St. John's, and United. We don't go to St. Joe's anymore. I think they're closing down. We go over there maybe once, twice a year into their mental health ward if they have a sexual assault victim. But these are our three primary hospitals. We see most of our sexual assault survivors at Regions Hospital. They do probably 75 to 80% of the sexual assault exams in Ramsey County. And we also do trainings and outreach, as I'm doing now. Excuse me. We do one-on-one education and support. We will meet with sexual assault survivors once or twice to explain the impact and the dynamics of sexual assault. A lot of times when individuals get sexually assaulted, they have no frame of reference for what comes next, how they're supposed to feel, are there services available, who can I reach out to, those kind of things are questions that survivors have, and that's what we try to provide to them. We also do a lot of that on the phone. Just sometimes individuals like to meet with you one-on-one just to have that individual connection. We also do legal advocacy, and we'll talk a little bit about that, civil advocacy, a lot of education, referrals, and all our trainings are free. We will go all over Ramsey County providing any kind of training under sexual violence to individuals that request it. So that's great too. I have people that want to offer me money. I'm like, oh, I wish I could take it and maybe help some survivors, but the county isn't allowed to do that. So kind of who we serve, we work with adolescents, young adults, secondary victims, and parents. Secondary victims are anybody that is concerned about the primary victim. A lot of times when individuals get sexually assaulted, they're confused. It takes them a while to process. They don't know if it was really sexual assault. But maybe they have a family member or a partner that is concerned about what happened to them. And so they will call SOS and get tips and ideas on how can I help this person who's not ready to contact SOS themselves? What can I do to help with the healing process and not re-traumatize a sexual assault victim? Because words can be traumatizing. They can be healing, but they can also be very traumatizing to sexual assault victims. And then we work with a lot of parents. We work with Midwest Children's Resource Center. They are the experts in child sexual abuse. So we also provide a lot of services to parents that have had young children that have been sexually abused. And I'll talk a little bit about that. So the majority of folks that we serve is between that 18 to 24 years old. And a lot of them are college and university students around Ramsey County, out of Ramsey County, out of the state. We get calls from all over. We have high numbers of calls during the first 3 months of school. That's September, October, November. Our calls are a little higher from colleges and also high schools now and elementary schools, I hate to say, where sexual assaults are happening, and they're happening a lot. So that's where the majority of our calls come. 28% is 35 years old to 64. And then that 3% over 65 is usually from like nursing homes, some kind of assisted living places also. We get calls from. Those cases are very sad because usually it's an elderly person, it's somebody with memory problem, it's a blind person, it's a deaf person, it's somebody that's very vulnerable that has been taken advantage of, somebody that works in that facility. Luckily, those cases are easy to track the perpetrator, and they usually get caught fairly soon. Because it's just easy to see who's on call and who's working and that kind of thing. So the majority of our referrals come from Ramsey County hospitals, Midwest Children's Resource Center, law enforcement, schools, and other community programs. Individuals can refer themselves. They can call our crisis line and get information, services, and support. Individuals can call our crisis line and not even give a name and just get information. We just want to provide information and education to help sexual assault survivors. We're not concerned about your name and you know, if you don't want to tell us your story, that's fine. If you just need services, that's what we want to provide. So we will take referrals from anywhere. We'll take them from out of the county as well, but if they're out of Ramsey County, there's only so much we can do. So if we get a survivor from Hennepin County and they were raped in Hennepin County and they live in Hennepin County and they want to file a police report in Hennepin County, I can talk to them and support them, but I would refer them to the Sexual Violence Center in Ramsey County that works with those law enforcement agencies because they have those connections and those relationships. Like I have over here in Ramsey County with our 9 law enforcement agencies, they have it on the other side of the river. But we can talk to anybody. Like I said, but we can only provide intense services in Ramsey County because that's where we work. And that's what we're supposed to do. They don't really like us going out of the county, but it's okay to provide those services on the crisis line. So just a little bit about our volunteer program. We have, I think, like 6.5 advocates right now. We were down to 2 at the end of the year, and then it was 3, and then we're back up to 6. And we are still hiring a couple more. But our program is based on volunteers. We answer the crisis line and provide that advocacy to our hospitals during the day, and our advocates take over after hours on the weekends for us. So we couldn't do our crisis line and provide this hospital advocacy if we didn't have our volunteers. We ask a lot of them. We try to give them some things back. Of course, we could never repay them for the hours that they spend with our sexual assault survivors at the hospital during these forensic exams. And I'll talk a little bit later about how long they take, but our volunteers are very important to us. And like I said, we could not run our program without them. So just a little bit about the Ramsey County protocol. And I think this is good information for anybody that lives and works in Ramsey County. We have a protocol that if somebody was sexually assaulted, they can get a forensic exam 10 days after that sexual assault. If we get a call and someone says I was sexually assaulted 12 days ago, I'm going to send them to the hospital anyway, and the forensic nurse will make the call what kind of exam she's going to do. We have got that okay from the forensic nurse. If it's 11 or 12 days, send them anyway. You know, if it gets to be 13, 14, 15, that's a little far away, but 1 or 2 days after 10 days is fine. Those exams run anywhere between $2,500 to $3,000. There's a lot of things that happen in the exam, and it's very expensive. The county where the sexual assault happened is responsible for that sexual exam bill. So if someone lives in Hennepin County, gets raped in Hennepin County, but they go to Regions Hospital, and they have that right, survivors can go to any hospital they want to. Regions will do that exam and bill Hennepin County. I am biased. When individuals call and they say I was sexually assaulted, within that 10-day frame, I send them to Regions Hospital for two reasons. Regions Hospital forensic nurse program has been running for over 20 years. It's a well-oiled machine. Everybody in the ER knows what's going on and why we're there. The other thing is that forensic nurses are able to check out or to discharge sexual assault survivors at the end of the exam. They don't need a doctor to come in to do that. I think at United and maybe St. John's, they have to have, or maybe it's just United, that they have to have a doctor come in and discharge the patient. As a lot of you know, whenever the doctor comes in, it's a charge. And I think it's $200 or $300 that survivor gets charged. The problem with that is a lot of college students are on their parents' insurance. They come in for this exam and they haven't told their parents because they don't want to, and that's their right. But now they have to, because now there's this $200 or $300 doctor charge from the hospital that the parents are going to see on the bill. So then they have to disclose. So that is the other reason why I send individuals to Regions, because there's no bills if you just do the forensic exam. Now, if you come in with a head injury and some other things, and you're going to need an MRI and a CAT scan, you're going to be charged for the MRI and the CAT scan, but not if you just come in for the forensic exam. That is not charged. So just a little bit about how SOS works with the forensic nurse. We work as a team to provide care. So of course the nurse is taking care of all the medical stuff. My job as an advocate is to support the victim while they're going through this medical exam. And what I usually do is, first of all, these exams take anywhere, I don't know why I have 3+ hours. I've never been in an exam that takes less than 4 to 5 hours. So I'm going to say 4 to 12 hours these exams take. And they take a long time because it depends on the victim, it depends on the condition of the survivor. Some survivors come in and they haven't slept for 3 or 4 days because of the sexual assault. Some survivors have been slipped date rape drugs and they're still groggy from that. Some survivors have been up doing alcohol and drugs to deal with the sexual assault and they're out of it and they're sleepy. So it depends on the condition of the survivor. It also depends on how that survivor can explain to the forensic nurse what happened to them during the sexual assault. We have to take a narrative. The nurse has to take a narrative to find out what happened in the sexual assault so she knows where to look for evidence, injuries, and all those kind of things. So the exam, it depends a lot on the survivor, how they present to us. Really has a lot to do with how long it takes and those kind of things. But my job as an advocate is to get to know that survivor because I have to make sure they have a safe place to go when they leave this room after this exam. That's part of my job. My other job is to get to know them. Are you in school? Do you have kids? Is the person that hurt you on campus with you? All those kind of things. So I know, are we going to have to get an HRO to make sure this person doesn't come near you? So my job is to get to know that person so I know what services they need when they leave this room. My job is just starting, right? After the nurse does the forensic exam, her job's kind of over, unless she has to go to court and testify. As an advocate, my job is just starting, and I need to find out how I can help the survivor heal, what kind of services they need that SOS is able to provide. If not, I need to find some good resources and referrals. So that is the advocate's role when we work with the nurse. So just a little bit about legal. We work with sexual assault victims whether they file a police report or not. Ideally, I'd love everybody to file a police report because then we could get more perpetrators convicted and more individuals in jail and off the street. Unfortunately, that's not my job. Excuse me. If you guys hear a phone ring, I apologize. But I do live with my 92-year-old mother who has a landline. So just to let you know. So the protocol in Ramsey County is not to have law enforcement talk to sexual assault victims without an advocate present. We know that law enforcement can be very scary, very intimidating. A lot of individuals don't have a good relationship with law enforcement. They don't respect law enforcement. They don't think that law enforcement is there to serve them or to help them. So the protocol in Ramsey County is that no investigator will interview a sexual assault victim without an advocate there. And we got this in writing in 2018. I think it has been going well. We had little hiccups during COVID. Because things were being done over the phone. We prefer that investigators interview victims face-to-face, and we're back to doing that now. And so we are present when those face-to-face interviews go on with law enforcement. I must say in Ramsey County, SOS and other programs have done a lot of training with law enforcement as far as how to work with law enforcement. Law enforcement is used to working with criminals. And so I had to tell them that this is a conversation. It's an interview. It's not an interrogation. This is a victim. This is not a criminal. So I need you to come in, sit down. Don't stand over people because you're big. Don't use your big, mean police voice. Use your calm voice. And so the investigators do a really, really great job in Ramsey County. And I do want individuals to know that. And our reporting rates have gone up in Ramsey County with sexual assault victims reporting. And also our conviction rate, thanks to John Choi and his staff, law enforcement, SOS, everybody, we've really been working together to get more convictions. Because as you can imagine, sexual assault survivors file a police report, their case gets charged, they go to court, they get on the stand, they testify, they pour their guts out, and then they see their perpetrator walk out of the courtroom free. It's very disheartening. It's very like, why did I go through this? And so a question that SOS always asks survivors is, what does justice look like to you? Because you may not get it from the criminal justice system. And I want them to know that. Yes, I hope your case gets charged. I hope it ends in a conviction and jail time or a plea deal or something, but that's not a guarantee. But I want you to think about how you're going to be able to move forward if this person is not convicted of this crime. And I think that's something very important for individuals to start thinking about when they enter the criminal justice system. So we also provide civil legal advocacy. We help individuals with orders for protection and harassment orders. We can do harassment orders and OFPs right at home from our computer over the phone. If somebody needs one quick, and they're pretty straightforward, which HROs usually are, sometimes orders of protection can get a little dicey. If they have like child custody issues involved, if they're going through a separation or a divorce, those kind of things, then we will refer to our partners at Standpoint Law Firm. They provide free legal services and advice to survivors of sexual assault. So we partner with them, and it's great because when I get those confusing ones, I will send them to our attorneys at Standpoint, because sometimes it can hurt sexual assault victims to get an order of protection for sexual assault if you're in the middle of a custody battle. And SOS does not want to cause more harm and problems for the survivors. So like I said, if it's not straightforward, we'll send them to Standpoint, and it's so nice to have them as a resource to do that. So, and now just a little bit about our follow-up program. When I started with SOS in 2012, there's just 2 employees. It was me and Kathy. We would see sexual assault survivors at the hospital. spend that time with them when they're getting that exam, call them 24 to 48 hours. And I would just say, hi, this is Khalees checking in. I met you a couple of days at Regents Hospital. Just want to know if you have somewhere to do your medical follow-up, because there's certain things that they have to do after their forensic exam. Ask them if they need any services right now and leave my number. That was it. And then we would move on to the next survivor, because it was only 2 of us and we didn't have time to follow longer. And as time went on and we started getting more staff, I told my boss, I said, you know, I came from a place where we worked with families and individuals for years, you know, for as long as they needed our support and services. I said, this feels like we're putting a Band-Aid on something and hoping it doesn't get ripped off. And that's when we talked about, we kind of looked at research and seeing that if sexual assault survivors don't get some kind of services at that 6 to 8 month period, if they're predisposed to drugs, alcohol, or mental health, that's when it's going to kind of set in. So we started our follow-up program. So we'll call our survivors 24 to 48 hours after seeing them in the hospital. We'll call them 2 weeks later. That's just kind of a quick check-in. And then at 2 months, 4 months, 6 months, 8 months, and on longer if they need us. And I have noticed that right around that 6 month to 8 month period, they'll say, you know, I'm having trouble sleeping, I can't concentrate, you know, my grades are dropping. Do you have a name of a good therapist or counselor? Yes, for sure. We know from research that survivors will not reach out to us. They can have my card in front of them, SOS brochure, but they won't call us. But if I call them and offer services, then they will take them. And so that's why we do our follow-up program. We will work with individuals until they say, Khalees, you don't need to call me anymore, I'm doing great. And I've had clients now 3 and 4 years, and I've had them for 3 and 4 months. So it just depends on the individual and the type of support system that they have in place as far as how long SOS is needed and how long our services are needed. So a lot of times after their criminal case ends, sometimes we think that's going to be it. Sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. If it ends in a conviction, survivors are not happy, but they feel like that they got justice, but they still may need us for other things, or just kind of wrapping their head around this whole ordeal that they went through for the past 1.5 to 2 years is over. Is hard for individuals too. And then, like I said earlier, if that perpetrator walks out of the courtroom after they went through all this, then they really need more support, you know, because they start to question themselves. Maybe I shouldn't have did this. Maybe they didn't believe me, and that's when they need SOS support services to say you did what you were supposed to do. The criminal justice system just doesn't always work. And juries are like society. Everybody doesn't understand sexual assault. Everybody doesn't understand that you can be raped by a partner, by somebody that you have been legally bound to, legally married to. You have papers with everything. You can have be raped by somebody that you consented to have sex with 30 minutes ago, and now you don't want to, and they forced you. So it's never, ever, ever about that relationship. It's about consent, and that's what juries don't understand, like society. They understand that stranger rape. They know that's wrong. Let's convict this person. They snatch this individual off the street and rape them. Everybody gets that. But when it's a friend, when it's a partner, when it's somebody you've been intimate with in the past, whether it was 10 or 20 years ago, individuals don't understand how that can be raped when you have consented to have sex with this person in the past. And that's when we have to start talking about consent. Okay, so any questions? That's kind of it on SOS services. I'm gonna keep it moving. If nobody,
there
yes.
are 2 questions.
Okay, great.
So there's one, is there a good resource to find out the protocols for forensic exams, etc., for each county?
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't hear all of that.
Is there a good resource to find out the protocols for forensic exams, etc., per each county?
Yes, I think you could call the Minnesota Coalition Against Sexual Assault. They work with all the counties in Minnesota, and they actually have meetings, I think, once a month. So they would definitely be able to give you that information. I think Hennepin County is like 6 or 8 days. So everybody's a little different. We have been on 10 days since 2016, and we did that not so much because the research said that we can collect DNA up to 8 or 9 days, but we also did it in Ramsey County to get more survivors to come in for these exams, because that's when they get connected with an advocate and they get services. So that was the main reason why the Ramsey County protocol team said, yeah, let's increase this, let's see more survivors, and we can provide more services. But the Minnesota Coalition Against Sexual Assault would have all that information.
Great. Yeah, I just put a link to the medical forensic resources on MNCASA's site. So perfect. There's another question of, if someone were to disclose sexual assault, but they don't know what they can do next, what would you say in response and offer to them that they can do?
I guess it would depend. I would ask them what they want to do. Because some individuals don't want to do anything, but do they want to get a police report? Do they need any health care? Do you want to talk to a sexual assault counselor about this? Do you want to talk to a therapist? So I think just having a conversation and kind of seeing where that individual is at as far as what they need, but there are options as far as things that they can do if they were sexually assaulted. If they don't want to file a police report or anything like that, and they just want to get help and services, that's fine. I mean, they are always welcome to call SOS, and we can lead them in the right direction according to what they need. But just being an open person to listen and not judgmental, and ask them, how can I help? You know, sometimes they know, sometimes they don't. But I ask individuals a lot, what can I do? Right? These are the services that I can provide now. How can I help you? So that might be something too.
That makes me think of the Blazer technique that you mentioned in another webinar about what can you do if someone tells you that they've experienced sexual assault, is to believe them, listen,
Yes.
affirm, support, empower resources. So absolutely. Thank you.
Of course.
There's another, do you want to move forward and we can do another section for questions in a few, like after a few slides, or do you want to do more questions now?
If it's, yeah, I mean, if there's another one, let's take it here.
Okay. This actually might be a good segue into what you're just about to talk about. There's a question, what if penetrative sex, not violent, in a relationship occurred, silence but no verbal consent was sought or given? Is this still assault?
Yes. 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 Because we know that individuals don't always say no. Don't fight back, and I'll you know, because of trauma and other things. But that individual that was doing that to her, that was penetrating that person, they knew that they didn't want it. I mean, you can tell by body language and everything. So yes, that is sexual assault. Yes, they could file a police report. Are those cases hard to prove? Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Is it going to get charged? I don't know. But I would say that's over 60% of our cases look like that. Exactly. Exactly like that. So, you know, like I said, they're hard to prove, but we know after all the research and you know, all the sexual assaults that we have seen in Ramsey County, that sometimes individuals just can't say no, they freeze. And so, but it's still sexual assault. It's still sexual assault. Yes.
Right. I just put that in a response. Silence does not equate to consent, right?
Correct. Correct. Yes.
Thank you. Yeah. All right. We have a couple other questions, but I think we'll get to those in a moment. So you can continue when you're ready, please.
Okay. So just some definitions. I just kind of want to be clear in what we're going into. So sexual assault is any unwanted sexual contact without explicit consent. That could be somebody hugging you too tight, too long. Been working with the high schools a lot and hearing stories where students will get pulled into the bathroom and felt up under their clothes, over their clothes, thrown against the locker, pinned against the locker, all those things. That's all sexual assault. Sexual coercion is when someone manipulates you into unwanted sexual activity through non-physical threatening means. So we'll talk more in detail about what that's about. And then rape is sexual penetration in any three orifice without consent, okay? So with rape, there has to be some kind of penetration. So that's the kind of the difference between the three. When I think about sexual violence, I think of sexual violence as a big umbrella, and then I've got sexual assault under there, rape, child sexual abuse, sex trafficking, pornography, all kinds of stuff. But that is the difference between rape and sexual assault. So how do we know if it's sexual coercion? Some types of abuse can be difficult to identify. Sexual coercion can be particularly tough to pinpoint because it's not always blatant. It's not physical. It's not like somebody is hitting you or shoving you. We know that that's physical abuse, but sexual coercion is more of a manipulation tactic. So it's a little kind of what I think of is sneaky, maybe at first, maybe the individual isn't quite sure what's going on, but it's described as any attempt to control someone's behavior through threats or manipulation. So everybody understands threats, right? But the manipulation part's a little different. Sexual coercion occurs when someone won't accept no and continues to try and convince you to change your mind about engaging in sexual activity. And, you know, already if somebody is not accepting no, that's something that we kind of want to look at. Does this person not respect me? Does this person think that they can just do anything to me? Are they not hearing me? Am I not being clear? Those are things that you want to think about. And then someone that is constantly asking you for sex over and over and over, and you said, I'm not ready for that, you know, I'd like to just keep our relationship like this, and they find a lot of different ways to ask you. They might say, I thought you loved me and wanted to make me happy. That's one of those manipulation tactics. Telling you it's your obligation as a partner or as a spouse to provide this sexual activity to me when I want it, right? And we know way back in the day, years ago, that before the domestic abuse clinics opened and programs started and sexual abuse and that, individuals had nowhere to go. If you were married and your husband wanted sex, you had sex, you know. You weren't allowed to say no. You were a property of your husband or your spouse, you know, and that's just the way it was. And I don't even think that females knew or had, you know, a lot of rights back there or knew that their body belonged to them until things started changing in the 60s and 70s. And thank God, because we are individuals, and it doesn't matter if we're connected with somebody, have a relationship with somebody, we should always still be able to be that individual and be able to make our own decisions, and especially when it involves having sex with somebody. That's a very intimate thing, and it needs to be a connection between two people. So just some more examples of this: threatening to break up with you unless you engage in sexual activity, refusing to use protection or not allowing you to use protection. That's another control tactic. I heard a lot in the high schools that a lot of the students would say, well, if you won't have sex with me, your friend will, or somebody else will, or, you know, I'm going to break up with you. And in high school and grade school, that's such a big thing, you know, that you don't want somebody to break up with you. So how can I keep this person? And adolescents know that, and they use that tactic a lot on each other. Threatening to go elsewhere for sex, withholding money or other needs if you don't have sex, saying sex is owed because your partner took you to a nice dinner or did you a favor. Sex is never owed. Sex should never be a payment for something. And if you have a partner, if you have somebody in your life that is doing that to you, then they don't respect you, and they're not letting you be the individual that you need to be, okay? Sexual behavior should be enjoyable for both parties, which means it should not feel like an obligation for somebody. It should not be like, I better do this because I don't want to lose this person. I think that happens a lot when you're young. I think back when I was a teenager and I had sex with my boyfriend. Did I want to? Heck no, I was 16. I didn't even know what I was doing, but I thought that was the thing to do. And he wanted me to do it. And I trusted him and I didn't want to lose him, basically. And I think that's true for a lot of adolescents at that age, which is really sad because you should never feel like you're forced to have sex to keep a relationship. But it's hard for adolescents because our friends and our boyfriends and girlfriends and partners and everything, our peers, they mean everything to us at that time in our life. So it's just a little different, but it should never be an obligation. It's something you must do. And you should never feel shamed or confused after engaging in sex. If that happens, then those are signs and cues like, well, maybe this was not right for me. Maybe I did it because this person wanted me to do it, and it's not what I really wanted to do. Both parties need to be on the same page. Sexual coercion can also be positive, right? Some coercion tactics are used to make the individual feel good and want to have sex. Example, somebody might buy you a nice gift, buy you a new iPhone. You think, oh my God, this is great. I always say that there's a price for everything, that we get nothing for free. If someone buys you a nice dinner, compliments you on your looks, your clothing, trying to get you in a good mood, they're thinking, maybe if I do all these things, maybe I can have sex in the end, right? That's what I'm working for. So it's hard to tell sometimes, especially for adolescents and probably for adults as well, when somebody is being sincere. Does this person really like me? Did they really want to spend all this money on this gift and give it to me, or are they looking for something in return? And I think when you're adolescent, under 25, and your prefrontal cortex is not fully developed, you don't have the capacity to think things through to the end as adults too, right? We know that if somebody gives us something and we don't know this person well, or it's just kind of too quick, too soon, the relationship hasn't even progressed that far, and they're giving you expensive gifts, that's going to kind of make you wonder what's going on. Like, what does this person want from me, and why are they moving so quickly? Whereas with adolescents, they're not going to think like that, and they can't think that through. They're going to think, oh my God, this is great. This is a good, you know, I love this new iPhone. This person must really care about me. And then you're feeling good about yourself and about them, and you might engage in sex. So that's just another tactic. You maybe weren't even thinking about having sex, but this person has changed your mind by providing these great gifts and just showing you all this positive attention. A lot of perpetrators prey on individuals maybe that are a little vulnerable. Maybe they're having problems at home. Maybe they're a little insecure. Maybe they don't have a lot of friends around them, those kind of things. And so it's very important that parents and other adults always encourage young people and build them up so that they do have good self-esteem and good confidence, and don't get sucked in to those kind of situations. So most of the time, sexual coercion happens in those intimate romantic relationships, but it can happen in other relationships as well, with acquaintances, friends, family. People can be coerced into doing several different things besides sexual acts. It typically consists of verbal and emotional pressure, although some individuals can give in to the pressure because the individual is becoming more aggressive. A lot of times it does turn aggressive, and that person may be intimidated and too scared to say, hey, I'm not comfortable with this. And so they will just go along with it and have sex and go through that because they figure it's safer than actually expressing, no, I don't want to do this, because they're not sure what that individual will do if they don't have sex with them, or if they don't do what they want to. And I think that happens a lot. Individuals are just unsure. Maybe nothing would happen, but they just don't know, and they don't want to take that chance. So coercion happens when someone wants you to consent, when you've already said no or have expressed disinterest. They might use threats, persuasion, and other tactics to get the outcome they want. If you really don't want to have sex but agree because you feel obligated or don't want the other person to get mad, you aren't consenting voluntarily. And like I said, we don't always have to say no, but that doesn't mean that we're saying yes either. And in the past couple of years, prosecutors have been able to educate juries on kind of what this looks like, as far as just because this individual did not say no, their body language and how they responded said no. And then they talk about how individuals freeze instead of like the fight and flight. With sexual assault and a lot of trauma individuals have experienced, they will freeze and they won't do anything. Sometimes that's better. I always say, do what you have to do to get out of that situation without getting hurt. If that means you just lay there and let them do what they have to do, and then they're done, and then you can take care of yourself. We've had individuals fight back and get hurt worse and have more injuries and more problems. So that freeze tactic is a protective thing that individuals do when they are traumatized. And I have experienced that myself, that freeze thing, when something very, very minor happened to me and I couldn't move, I couldn't say anything. And I thought, oh my gosh. So it is real for sexual assault survivors. If you don't want to have sex but agree, and you didn't consent, that is sexual assault. You can file a police report. A lot of times I get calls and survivors who explain this, that same kind of scenario. I didn't want to do it, but I couldn't say no, but I didn't say yes. Is that rape? Yes, because you didn't consent. Can I file a police report? Yes. Those kind of cases are hard because when individuals get sexually assaulted, as we know, there's usually only two people there. In a case like this, it's going to be their word against their word. But definitely, you can file a police report because you did not consent. That kind of stuff gets a little tricky. So being in a relationship with somebody doesn't mean that you give ongoing consent for sex. And that's what individuals don't understand. You have to get consented every time. And it doesn't mean that you need to try to talk me into it. If I don't want to have sex, and I don't want to have sex, I don't need you to say, well, you had it a couple of days ago, or, I did all this stuff for you, or, you said you really care about me. It's my choice as an individual to decide when, where, and who I want to have sex with. Nobody can force me to do that. If they do, it's a crime, right? Once you say no, your partner should respect your decision. I don't need to be asked why not. I don't need to be asked, well, when are you going to be ready for sex then? No. When I am ready, you will know. I will let you know. It will be clear. It will be explicit. I will let you know what I like and what I do not like. we will have a conversation about it as two people that are going to have sex and engage in sex. It's more than just that. It's a lot of times individuals will, yeah, let's do this. And then one partner will want to do something else and another won't. That's why you have to have that conversation about what's going to be done, what you like, what you don't like, what you will not stand for. It's very important to have those conversations. If you can't have those conversations with your partner, then there's a problem. That's very, very hard for adolescents because they don't do a lot of talking like that in their relationships. And as I keep going into these schools and saying, I know it's hard, but you got to do it. Otherwise, somebody might be in court for something that they thought was okay. Those kind of things. And then any threats, guilt trips, persuasion intended to wear you down, that's all coercion. You know, the threats. I had one client who was married and had an affair. Then she cut the affair off, but the person that she had an affair with, they did not want it cut off, and they threatened to call her husband and tell her husband if she didn't keep having sex with this person. And I thought, oh my God, I said, you're just going to have to tell your husband, otherwise this guy is going to have total control over you for a long time. So coercion looks, it can look different in a lot of different situations and a lot of relationships, but the end result is always the same. It's that person trying to get you to do something that you're not comfortable with. And that's what it all comes down to. Yeah. So sometimes it's hard to tell if somebody is sincere. I did a thing a couple of weeks ago for teenagers, and I had questions like, well, you know, if my partner is telling me, you know, that they really like me, we maybe been together for a few months, we've never had arguments, this person's always respected me, we've always had a good time. How do I know if they're sincere when they want to have sex? And I said, you know, there's no way to tell unless you start seeing warning signs. And so I think that's very hard for adolescents because, like I said, their brain is still growing. I mean, as adults, we know when somebody is trying to take advantage of us. Well, we should know. A lot of us know. Hopefully we know. Or something like that, when they're trying to get something out of us that we're not comfortable with. But that's hard for adolescents because compliments make everybody feel good. And especially as a teen, you want your peers to compliment you. You want them to think highly of you and say all these nice things about you. And so it's a little harder to tell if somebody is being sincere for adolescents, but there's three factors that might help. It's their intent. Is their intent to make you feel good or get something they want? It's whether you have said no already. If you've already said no and this individual is still asking you, but asking you in a lot of ways that seem like they're not asking you, but you feel like they keep asking you. And then how they respond to your refusal, right? And if somebody really likes you and respects you and you say, I'm not ready to do that, please stop asking me. Oh my God, you're going on and on. And they say, you know what? You're right. I'm sorry. I stepped over my bounds. You said no. I'm going to respect that. Or if they say, well, you know, if you really like me, you would do it. And, you know, if you wanted me to be satisfied, then you would do it. So those three things you can kind of look at. If you said no already and they keep asking you, how they respond when you say no is a big, big sign. Is it a negative response or a positive response? And you know, if it's negative, then that's it. That person does not have your best interests at heart. They do not care about the way you feel. And they should, because this is your body. It's not their body, and you have control over your body. And then their intent. Is their intent to get what they want? Or is their intent to build an intimate relationship with you because they really like you and because they want to take it a step further? So kind of looking at those three things and kind of weighing them out might kind of tell you what page individuals are on. So sexual coercion and manipulation to me kind of go together in some relationships. One partner might try and manipulate your emotions by stating that everything is fine, but presenting body language that states something else, right? Yeah, okay, I'm okay with it if you don't want to have sex, but they're saying it in a mean tone. They're ignoring you. They're walking out the room. Oh, well, I'm just going to go then. Well, I thought you were okay with me saying that I don't want to have it. Well, I am, but I want to leave anyway, right? So their actions are not matching what they said. I'm angry and I'm not happy with your decision, is what I would like to hear somebody say instead of saying it's okay. Just be honest about the way you feel. Okay, I'm angry that you don't want to have sex. I'm angry with that decision, but I'm also going to respect it, you know. And I think that's fine to say instead of saying, oh, I'm okay, but you know it's not, and you're acting like it's not. Let's be honest. No, I didn't like what you said, but I don't have any choice but to respect it. Other tactics might include crying or telling their partner, if you could only have sex, I know that you would make me feel so much better. All those kind of things are ways that individuals use to manipulate and control kind of what they want from their partner. That happens a lot in the grooming process when individuals are getting groomed online. Those kind of things, you know, I've taken you shopping, I've spent all this time and all this money with you, and all I want for you to do is to have sex with me. I don't think that's asking a lot. And so they lay all that on you, everything they've done, kind of give you a guilt trip, and you're kind of like, well, yeah, I guess so. They have done all these things. I guess I do owe them sex. And the reality is you don't. That is your body. You didn't ask them to buy you those things and give you those things, but that's why you really need to think when someone is doing all these things for you, what is their intent, right? Do they really care about me? Are they trying to get what they want? All right, so when you realize that a partner is trying to coerce you into sex, if you feel safe doing so, bring it to their attention. And let them know that you're aware of what they're trying to coerce you into doing. If their response is negative and aggressive, leave the situation alone, call a friend, right? Get to a safe place. If someone is not respecting your boundaries, that person doesn't deserve to be in your presence. And that's all it comes down to. You know, if someone, if you're trying to explain to somebody how you feel, why you don't want to have sexual intercourse right now, they're not really listening. They're just thinking about what they want. They're getting aggressive. That's a situation. Those are red flags. And hopefully individuals say, you know what, I don't need to be in a relationship with somebody that is getting mad and aggressive because I don't want to have sex. It's you know, it doesn't make sense because it's my body. Get to a safe place and call somebody else. Like I said, if that person doesn't deserve to be with you, if they're not respecting how you feel, and they're not respecting your body. If you don't feel comfortable calling them out, talk to someone about the situation that can be helpful. You can call SOS. If it gets more serious than that, you need to call law enforcement, do that too. Just take care of yourself and protect yourself. A lot of times when individuals are being groomed for sex trafficking and other things, they feel that they can't say no, that that person grooming them has all the power and control, and in a lot of times they do. So a lot of times it's safer just to get out of that situation if you can, and talk to somebody that you trust that can help you, because the last thing you want to do is cause yourself more harm. You always want to be able to speak up for yourself, but if you're not in an environment where it's safe to do that, then you should not do it. If you're experiencing ongoing coercion from a partner you want to maintain a relationship with, start by having a talk with them. Explain how their attempts to pressure you make you feel. And tell them that they must respect your boundaries for that relationship to continue. I can't imagine being pressured all the time for sex. And then, you know, a lot of times individuals get worn down. You get tired of somebody asking where you're just like, okay, all right, I'll do it. Last week I did it. I guess it won't be that bad. I'll do it again. And we should not have to do that if we're in a healthy relationship, because our partner should respect that we don't want to do it. Our partner should not, I wouldn't think they would get as much out of it if their partner is not engaged in it like you are, right? When two people are engaged, the sex is great. I mean, if someone is just laying there and they're not engaged, to me, that tells me that that person doesn't really care about you or how you feel, or if you're satisfied. They're just trying to get their needs met. And that's not what a healthy relationship is. It should involve both individuals having their needs met. And when someone is coerced into having sex, their needs are not met. They feel like they have been taken advantage of, and they probably have. They feel like they've been sexually assaulted and that their voice has been taken away. And that's not how it ever should be if you are in a relationship. Individuals should respect boundaries. So sexual coercion and rape fall under the umbrella of sexual assault. Assault refers to any sexual contact that happens without your explicit voluntary consent. Since consent given under coercion isn't freely given, it doesn't count as consent, right? So what that says is someone is pressuring you, if someone keeps asking you, if someone is threatening you and you say, okay, yeah, or you don't say anything and you just do it, that does not count as consent. Even if you do not say, no, I don't want to do this. If you say nothing, if you freeze, if you just lay there, that is not consent. And you can file a police report, you know, and you can have something done, because that is not right. Consent has to be freely given. It can't be given under threats. It can't be given because someone has been pressuring me for 15 minutes and I don't want to hear their voice in my ear anymore and I just can't take it. Or I'm just going to say yes because this person is becoming aggressive and I don't know what they'll do and I'm scared. So I think it's safer if I just go on and have sex, but I really don't want to, but I feel like my choices are taken away. That is not consent. We all have control over our own bodies, and we always should. When, where, and who touches us, that should be up to the individual. When that's taken away, that is the most horrible feeling, and that's why individuals are so traumatized. It's hard for society to understand sexual assault. And coercion. How can someone be talked into something? How can that happen? And unless you're in that situation, you don't understand. I was in a situation where this individual hugged me too tight, a stranger. I was in a room full of people, you guys. I could not talk. I froze. I swear this hug went on so long. I'm thinking in my head, who's this person? Why are they hugging me? Why am I feeling body parts? Please let me go. And nothing came out of my mouth. I am a person who has lived a long time, lots of experience, lots of life experience, have dealt with many different things, have did this work for 12, 13 years now. And I could not say, please don't hug me, please don't touch me, you're making me uncomfortable. I froze. That's how sexual assault victims feel, multiplied by 1,000. I had other people in the room. Sexual assault victims are usually just there with their perpetrator. That is why they freeze. That is why they just do it, right? I feel like there was no way out. I didn't know if this individual was going to kill me or hurt me, so I just did it. That is the same thing with coercion. You don't know. Somebody becomes aggressive. Somebody won't stop asking you, okay, this person is determined to have sex with me. I don't know how they're going to react if I say no, so I'm just going to do it. that's what happens, and that is wrong, and that is not consent. You should always have a choice, and that should never be taken away. Coerced sex, when it involves penetration, would count as rape, even if the person didn't use force or violence. It doesn't matter. Any object in our vaginal area, anus, or our mouth, any object that, and like I said, it's not always violent. And there's not always injuries on individuals, but it is rape if there is penetration involved. And of course, there are higher conviction rates when there's penetrations, higher jail time for individuals, all that, because you should never, ever put anything in anybody's body that they have not consented to. So there doesn't always have to be force and violence, you guys. And with sexual assault, there's usually not a lot of force or violence. Sometimes when it's coerced, there's a little force, but not much. And that's why sexual assault is so hard for individuals to understand, like, well, this person did not hold you down. Why didn't you get up and leave? Or the door was right there. Why didn't you fight back? Those kind of things. Why didn't you defend yourself? And what individuals don't understand, it's because you can't, because you freeze. We usually get sexually assaulted by somebody we know. It's in an intimate relationship. It's a friendship. It's an acquaintance. It's somebody close to us. And that makes it harder to accept that I trusted this person. I believed in this person, and this person has hurt me. And it's the same thing when somebody coerces you into sex, when they try to talk you into it, when they won't give up, when you feel pressured, when you feel that the individual is so aggressive that you have to do it. It's the same kind of deal. I did not consent to this, but I'm going to do it because this person won't shut up. I'm going to do it because I don't want to lose this person, or I'm going to do it because this person is aggressive, right? There are several different reasons, but it all comes down to consent, right? So after someone pressures you into sex, the next steps are up to the individual. Like I said, a lot of times I'll ask them, how can I help you? These are services that SOS provides. If you want to tell me a little bit about what's going on, I can kind of tell you how SOS can kind of help with things. So actually just talking to the individual and having that conversation. Some things to consider. Coercion is assault, and you have every right to report this crime and press charges. It's not okay for someone to pressure you into sex, even if you're in a relationship with this person. It does not give them a right to pressure you into having sex, even if you've had it previously with them, right? And you have a right to report that crime and press charges. Maybe you don't want to take that route. Maybe you just want to talk to somebody, a professional, about what happened and maybe get some feedback. Maybe you want counseling or therapy. Or maybe you just want to call SOS and kind of run it by us and kind of get the ins and outs of sexual violence, kind of maybe learn more about it. And one thing that SOS always says, that sexual assault is never on the victim. It's never the victim's fault. It doesn't matter what that victim did. It doesn't matter if they were drinking. It doesn't matter if they went to somebody's dorm room. It doesn't matter if they walked in front of somebody naked with any clothes on. It is never, ever the victim's fault. They are never to blame. And as a society, we need to change that. I think things are getting better, but we still look at the victim. Well, why did they go with this person? Why were they dressed like that? Why were they drinking so much? Why were they hanging out in these types of establishments if they, if they didn't want anything to happen to them? Those kind of things. We're good at blaming the victim, and we should never do that. So it's all about having a conversation, and it's all I said, sometimes they don't even know that they've been coerced into having sex. And then when you start talking about it and they tell you their story, you're like, yeah, you didn't consent to that. This sounds like somebody really kind of twisted your arm into having sex. And then they start thinking about it and they go, well, I didn't want to do it. But can somebody that I'm in a relationship force me to have it? And then you have to educate them on consent. And it's never about the relationship. It's always about you and what you want and what you consent to and what you are comfortable with. That is what it's always about. Oh, did I get done that quick? Wow, okay. Are there any questions? I didn't realize, usually I talk too much, you guys, and go over my time. So I'm glad I left some time at the end. Any questions, anything that wasn't clear? Let me know.
There was a question if human trafficking is considered sexual coercion.
I would say yes. I would say that people don't volunteer to be trafficked or sex trafficked or human trafficked. They are groomed into that process. So yes, it's the same thing as coercion. The person doing the grooming finds somebody that's vulnerable, right? Starts giving them compliments, spending time with them, filling in those voids that they see there. And then they talk them into having sex or doing things with folks that they would never consider doing. So yes, yes, it is.
Thank you. And then there's a question of how would you spoke a little bit on this, but how would you help an adolescent realize it could be sexual coercion, even if they aren't aware that it may be happening?
Mm-hmm. I think I would talk a little bit about what a healthy relationship looks like between adolescents and ask them if they feel that they have a voice in that relationship and if their voice is heard and respected. So I think that's kind of the way to go. I think a lot of adolescents don't know what a healthy relationship looks like and what that entails, and it comes from both sides and being able to set those boundaries, but also having those boundaries respected. So I think that's the route I would take, and then give examples on what coercion looks like and what an unhealthy relationship looks like too. Instead of just a healthy relationship. So then they can go, oh, well, some of these things from a bad relationship has happened to me, but I've also had some positive things in my relationship happen. So just kind of educating them on what that is. A lot of times, adolescents get their examples from home, right? From their parents or from their adult relationships, and those may not always be good examples and may not be positive. So I think having those conversations with adolescents is important. And yeah, I've been starting to have them in the high school, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, thanks, Khalees.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had a question about kind of your programming and how you attract new volunteers, and if you have any suggestions for that.
Oh, you guys, it is so hard. I think before COVID, we had maybe 40 to 50 volunteers. And then as COVID came, we stopped face-to-face, of course. And so everybody was doing stuff over the phone and video. And, you know, during COVID, like a lot of people left their jobs and changed, and we had a lot of volunteers leave and do other things. And so we did get a little money from the county to where we can pay our volunteers. So for them to be on call, I think we give them like $50. Our on-call shifts are 12 hours. Some are 8, some are 12. And I think we pay them like $50 now, so we're able to get a few more, but it's hard. So our sexual assault victims, all sexual assault individuals that work with victims have to have that 40-hour training. And so SOS has been providing that 2 times a year, and we hired somebody. So now we're going to be doing trainings 3 or 4 times a year. And that's a lot of recruitment, how we recruit for volunteers. We have connections with all the colleges. And so we have a lot of college students. We have a good partnership with Hamlin. So probably a third of our volunteers are Hamlin students. But again, they graduate, they leave, and then we're stuck. So that's hard. We try to advertise everywhere. We've gotten county folks. So we're hoping the incentive with the money will help a little bit, but we don't have the answer. It is hard. And like I said, I think COVID changed a lot of things for individuals, and really people don't have time to volunteer now. If they're out there doing this, they need to get paid. They need to earn a salary. And so we're just trying to find ways how we can write grants maybe and get more money for volunteers and those kind of things. But we are struggling as well, you guys, for sure. Yeah, and unfortunately, because it lands on staff, because we have to cover 24/7. And so if we don't have any volunteers, it's staff that have to cover those after hours and nights. So we're always out there looking, because nobody wants to be woken up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning for a crisis call or a hospital call or something like that. So yeah, it's tough. And I think it's tougher now. Because of everything that's going on. So I don't have the answer, unfortunately. I'm sorry.
Yeah, thanks, Khalees. What observations have you had that you feel are unique to the pandemic in terms of ability to access services, or maybe even misconceptions about what options are available in terms of with the pandemic and with hospitals, of like the fear of, oh, I don't want to take up hospital space from someone who has COVID or whatever the case is? Like, what are some observations that you've made during these past 2 years now?
Yeah, I think in the beginning when COVID first started, you guys, our numbers were so low, like nobody was going to the hospital. Our sexual assault victims were not coming in. And let's see, everything kind of started in March 2020. I think by June 2020, our numbers started to pick up. We were nervous that we would not develop that connection because we weren't going in person. And we know from research that that is such a good time to build that relationship with survivors in the hospital. And so we were doing it online and by video, and that I think worked out okay, because that's how everybody was providing services. So it wasn't just SOS, it was therapy, it was medical. Everybody was doing it on video because we couldn't do any face-to-face. So things started to pick up. I think we missed a lot of survivors because when we were there in person, we would just show up. And, I would just come in the room. Hi, I'm your advocate. I'll be here for the exam. Okay. And then when we weren't there, the forensic nurse would ask the survivor, do you want to advocate? They will pop up on this screen and you will see their face and stuff. And most of them were like, no. And I thought that was weird too, that my head would pop up and hi, it just felt very kind of weird and invasive. So our survivors didn't take to that right away. And so we didn't have contact with them right away. And the hospitals would send all the referrals. So eventually we would call them and make that contact. But I think over time, it got better and more sexual assault victims started coming in the hospital. I know at Regions, they didn't have enough beds in the ER, so they were putting beds in triage for sexual assault victims and really trying to make accommodations. So things kind of changed. We did a lot of contacts with the hospital over the phone, is just talking to individuals, and I think they like that better than seeing your head pop up, because I thought that was too weird. Just to make those connections and let them know, in a perfect world, I would be with you, but here's what I can provide. I'm sorry this happened to you, but I'm glad I got a chance to connect with you, and those kind of things. So, and then I think in 21, our numbers really started to pick up and individuals started to come to the hospital more, and we started to get more referrals. And ever since then, our numbers have been going up. which is good because we know that sexual assaults are happening and we want individuals to get in and get those exams and get connected to advocacy and get other services and those kind of things. So I think things are kind of getting back on track. We are back to doing things in person. The county lifted everything. I think it was the end of March for us or sometime in April. They kind of had us on lockdown as far as what we could do. But now we're kind of free to go everywhere, which I think is great because I think that is what's nice about SOS is that in-person advocacy that we can provide. Phone advocacy is great, as we all know, but there's nothing like that in person where you can actually make that connection with somebody. So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, thanks, Khalees.
Okay.
And speaking of the spectrum from sexual coercion to rape, and I've heard a lot of survivors make statements like it wasn't that bad or it could have been worse, and there's a lot of minimization. And so how do you honor, the bottom line that sexual assault is sexual assault, and that you don't have to have bruises or wounds to have this evidence that someone violated your body? Like, how do we start to have conversations about there is a spectrum, but it doesn't mean that there's a hierarchy?
Right. And I think that's very hard for individuals because sexual assault, all the pain is on the inside, right? It's emotional, it's psychological. Sometimes there's some physical injuries, but they're usually under the clothes. And so it's hard for individuals to grasp, well, you look okay. How come you can't get out of bed, or how come your grades are dropping? You seem fine. So they don't understand the impact that sexual assault survivors experience when your control is taken away and there's nothing you can do. And so a lot of individuals try to downplay it. I get calls all the time, explain a situation. Do you think that was rape? Yep. Well, I didn't get help. There was no violence. I didn't get hurt. They didn't yell at me. It was, they were actually talking nice to me. I'm like, yes, all that. I have totally seen that, but did you consent and did you want that to happen? No, I did not. And were they aware of that? Yes, they were. So that's rape. So, and it's hard for individuals to say that I've been sexually assaulted or I've been raped, right? It's easier for individuals when it's by a stranger. They say it right away, this person raped me. But it's somebody they know, it's acquaintance, it's a friend, it's somebody they've been in a relationship. It's hard to say, hey, this person sexually assaulted me, right? So we hear that a lot. It wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. This person was actually kind of, sweet with me or whatever. So sexual assault is not always somebody yelling at you and throwing you down on a bed and being violent. It can be, and it has been, but it can look a lot of different ways, but it's still sexual assault. It doesn't matter if there's violence. It doesn't matter if somebody was nice to you, if they showed you respect, because how can somebody respect you when they're doing something intimate to you that you did not consent to? So those two things don't go together, and that's what I always tell people. If this person really cared about you just because they're talking sweet, then they wouldn't have had sex with you because you didn't want to have sex and they raped you. So yes, I hear that a lot. It wasn't that bad. It didn't last that long. They didn't hit me. There was no violence, those kind of things. It still doesn't matter whether it's violent, whether there's no violence. It's all sexual assault if you do not consent to every single sexual activity. So not just one in the beginning, but if somebody wants to do something different, you have to get consent again. You changed up. We didn't talk about this. You need to get consent to make sure this is okay. And if you don't, and it happens, and this person doesn't want it to, it's wrong, it's a crime, and it can be charged. So yes.
Yeah, speaking of that, there's another question about there is a lot of focus on prosecution and like what does healing look like for survivors who don't seek prosecution or that there's barriers to them doing so?
Yes, you know, and that's a very important question. And we ask all our survivors that, because as we know, um, the majority, like sexual assault is the lowest reported crime, it's the lowest charged crime, it's lowest conviction rates, everything, right? It's just very, very hard to prove and hard for individuals. But I asked them that at the beginning, if they file a police report or if they don't, what's going to help you get justice? What's going to help you move on? Because filing this police report, I think that's great. I got your back. I'm here with you. I'll support you. I'll be with you through this whole criminal justice process. But when we get to the end, if this person's not found guilty, if your case is not charged, how are you going to be able to move forward? And for a lot of individuals, that looks different. For some individuals, it's like, you know what? I don't care if it gets charged. I just want law enforcement to talk to this person so they know that I stood up for myself and they didn't get away with it. Or I don't care if they get locked up. I just want to do everything I can to let this person know that what they did to me was wrong. Or I don't know how I'm going to move on if they don't go to jail. Right? I get that a lot too. And that's something that individuals have to figure out on their own. I cannot help them with that. You know, I can suggest, do you want to talk to a professional about it? Those kind of things, but they have to kind of figure that out for themselves. How are you going to move on? And like I said, that looks different for everybody. Some people don't need this person convicted and in jail, right? Some individuals, and sometimes this is the problem, because some survivors say, yep, I'm filed a police report. I want law enforcement to talk to them. Okay, so law enforcement talks to them, open this investigation, and things start rolling down the hill. Well, I don't want it to go anywhere else. Well, if a case gets to a certain level and the police feel that this person is guilty and they have a lot of evidence, they can't stop it, right? It has to go to prosecution. So sometimes that's a problem for victims. Well, I don't want it to go any further. Some cases, they have to, because this person is so violent, or because this person has past offenses and we can't let them walk free. Usually when victims say, I don't want to continue with the case, that's it. Law enforcement will call what they call pending, and they will put that case away. It would not be closed. They will leave it pending for a long time, because they know that sexual assault victims may change their mind and come back, and they will pick it up where they left off. So that's kind of how that works. But it all depends on the individual and kind of what they want out of this. And those are conversations that the advocate has with the sexual assault victim before anything. And especially before the criminal justice process. I explained everything. This is going to be a long process, you guys. It's going to be over a year. And with COVID, I've had cases from 2019 that are just now going to trial, because everything's backed up, as we know. So we are perfectly honest as far as the way the criminal justice system works. You can file a police report. That does not mean that this person's going to be charged and in jail. Does not mean they're going to be arrested, right? I get calls from people, I filed a police report. I seen the person at the store the next day. Yes, the police can only hold them for 72 hours without probable cause. So they want to collect evidence. They want to build a case. So when they take them to jail, they're staying in jail. That is what they want to do. So just explaining all that process, the more information we can give survivors, the better decisions they can make. But like I said, as far as that healing process and moving forward, that's a conversation that we talk to them about. And that's something that they kind of have to figure out on their own, and come to terms with, if it doesn't go the way I want, how am I going to feel and how am I going to be able to move on? And usually individuals can figure that out.
Yeah, survivors have to file a police report in order to file like a harassment restraining order.
They don't have to, but the judge will sign it a lot quicker if there is a law enforcement report.
Okay.
Yes, yes. Yeah, and so yes, they don't need one, but it moves quicker, faster, and easier if there is a police case number on there. Yeah.
Great. I think there's one last question. How can we deal with hostile law enforcement?
Oh my gosh, you guys, that's the magic question. What I can say, and I'm only going to speak to Ramsey County because that's all I know, and the other counties have way more issues than we do, you guys. Believe me, I've been at a lot of meetings, but what I can say is that SOS and other programs have trained all law enforcement investigators in St. Paul on how to work with sexual assault victims. We are also training new recruits coming into St. Paul on what that looks like. What we need to get to are the patrol officers. There's tons of them. Those are the ones that we have the problems with. Those are the ones that take the initial report with the survivor that can turn the survivor off right away. And so that's what we're working on. So if you guys do run into officer that's hostile, I would try to call their chief or their commander or somebody, or let them know. Or you can even call SOS. We know everybody at St. Paul, and we've made lots of reports for individuals. But please let us know, because that is one thing that we are trying to work on. And all the chiefs at the law enforcement agencies are very serious about having their law enforcement in check. And so not show those types of behaviors and attitudes towards individuals. So more training coming. The good thing is, but I would try to report them. If you don't call out their behavior, it's not going to change, right? And we all know that. So sorry, I don't have a great answer for you on that one, but we are working on it.
All right, thank you so much, Khalees. I think unless anyone has any last questions, that concludes our webinar. I included the certificate of attendance in the chat, as well as the PowerPoint slides. Our feedback survey, that'd be really great to get your feedback of what you thought of this webinar, what you'd like to see in the future. And the recording of this webinar will be on our YouTube channel as well, and all the other links that I was sending in the chat will be included in the follow-up email. Thank you again so much to Khalees. We're excited to have you later this month with Huntley to talk more about consent and respect and shifting away from rape culture that is still so prominent. So hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and thank you again to our interpreters.
Thank you, everyone.